If you find a secret hiding place in an old house, it's usually for a reason. Some things are buried because they were meant to be forgotten, and some things are hidden because they are too dangerous to be seen. In Shadow Pines, the past isn't a memory, it's a warning. We spent all night staring at the tree line, waiting for Toby and Jay to walk out of the dark. But the forest doesn't give back what it takes, not without a price. Emma hasn't slept, and neither have I. We realized that if we're going to survive the Hollow King, we can't just keep running. We need to understand the rules of the game he's playing. And the only way to do that was to go back to the beginning. My grandfather lived in this town his entire life, and he was one of the few who never looked at the woods with anything but pure, cold dread. He died last year, leaving me his house and a study filled with books on local history that never made it into the school library. He used to tell me that the floorboards in this town have ears and the walls have memories. He was right. While Emma and Lily were downstairs trying to make sense of the sheriff's latest non-statement, I was in the study, pacing. I noticed a slight unevenness in the wood under the heavy oak desk. It wasn't just old age. It was a deliberate gap. I pried the board up, my heart hammering against my ribs. And there it was, wrapped in oilcloth and smelling of old dust and dried blood. A leather-bound book, the spine cracked, with a date embossed on the cover, 1999. 25 years ago, the exact length of the cycle. I brought the book downstairs, and the air in the kitchen seemed to thicken the moment I set it on the table. Emma, Lily, and even Jay, who's been quiet and distant since we pulled him back from the edge of the thicket, gathered around. The cover was scarred, as if something with very long claws had tried to shred it. We opened the first page and saw a name written in bold, frantic ink, the First Watchers. It wasn't a diary, it was a survival guide. The entries didn't start with ghost stories. They started with facts. July 14th, Emma read aloud, her voice trembling. The whispers have moved from the woods to the pipes in the house. Marcus says he saw a man standing in the middle of the road who didn't have a shadow. We checked the records. It's happening again. As we flipped through the pages, the similarities were staggering. These were teenagers just like us 25 years ago. They described the same shifting trees, the same rhythmic humming in the air, and the same terrifying realization that the town of Shadow Pines isn't built on land. It's built on a grave. They called the creature the Hollow King, but they knew more than we did. They wrote about how he feeds on the specific frequency of fear, how he uses our own memories as bait. There were sketches in the margins, drawings of a tall, spindly figure with white, static eyes that looked exactly like the thing we saw in the grove. But there was something else. They mentioned a tether. They believed the king isn't just a monster from another dimension. He's a prisoner who is allowed to hunt once every quarter century to satisfy a debt. The more we read, the more the room felt like it was shrinking. The First Watchers weren't just documenting the horror, they were trying to fight it. They had a plan. They had spent months researching ancient rituals and town lore to find a way to lock the king back in his cage before the full moon. "Look at this," Lily whispered, pointing to a page near the middle. "It says the king cannot enter a home unless he is invited by a voice he has stolen. That's why he mimics us. He needs our permission to cross the threshold." We all looked at the back door, suddenly thankful for the deadbolt. But then, as Noah turned the next page, the heart of the book vanished. The most important section of the journal, the part where the handwriting became tight and disciplined, titled "How to Bind the King," was gone. The pages hadn't just fallen out. They had been surgically removed. The jagged edges where the paper had been torn away were clean and precise. Someone didn't want this information getting out. Someone had found this journal before me and ensured that if anyone else discovered it, they would only find the problem, never the solution. The silence in the kitchen was heavy. Without those pages, we were just reading a long, detailed obituary of a group of kids who vanished 2.5 decades ago. Emma didn't give up. She's the anchor for all of us, the one who refuses to let the darkness win. She grabbed the book and started flipping through the very back, looking for anything the thief might have missed. Tucked into the very last flap of the leather binding was a Polaroid photograph. It was faded, the edges yellowed with age, but the image was clear enough. It showed 4 teenagers standing in front of the old town hall, smiling, their arms around each other's shoulders. They looked happy. They looked like they had a future. But it was the 5th person in the photo that made the blood freeze in my veins. Standing slightly apart from the group, wearing a varsity jacket and a look of grim intensity, was a young man with a familiar jawline and piercing, guarded eyes. Oh, it was Daniel Hayes, our sheriff. But he wasn't just in the photo. He was part of the group. He was one of the first watchers, the man who tells us to stay indoors, the man who dismisses the disappearances as accidents, was there when the cycle last turned. And he's the only one in that photograph who is still in Shadow Pines today. The others, the kids who wrote the journal, never made it to graduation. He knew, Emma whispered, her eyes fixed on the sheriff's younger face. He's known the whole time. He's not protecting the town. He's protecting the secret. The realization hit us like a physical blow. The authority figure we were supposed to turn to was a witness to the massacre, and for 25 years he's kept his mouth shut. Did he tear the pages out? Did he hide the book in my grandfather's study? Or was he the reason the ritual failed in the first place? As we sat there, reeling from the betrayal, a sudden, sharp chill swept through the room. The kitchen window was cracked open just an inch to let in the evening air. Outside, the crickets abruptly stopped chirping. A shadow, darker than the night itself, elongated across the kitchen floor, stretching from the window toward the table where the journal lay. None of us saw the hand until it was already there. It wasn't a human hand. It was too long, the fingers ending in sharp obsidian points, and it moved with a speed that defied physics. It didn't reach in. It simply manifested. In one blurred motion, the clawed hand snatched the leather book from the table. No, Noah lunged for it, but his fingers only brushed the cold, damp air where the journal had been a second before. We scrambled to the window, throwing it wide, but the backyard was empty. There was no rustle in the grass, no sound of retreating footsteps, only the distant, mocking whisper of the pines. The record of our only hope was gone, pulled back into the darkness by the very thing it described. We stood there in the dark, the reality of our situation sinking in. We were being watched. The Hollow King didn't just want us scared. He wanted us helpless. He had taken our history, our maps, and our guide. But as I looked down at the floor, I saw a tiny flicker of white. In the struggle, a single scrap of paper had been torn from the stolen book. It was a jagged corner, no bigger than a business card, with only a few words written in a cramped, desperate hand. It read, "The sheriff is the key. Do not let him see the light." We stared at the scrap, the final message from a group of ghosts. The full moon is only a few nights away, and we are standing in the center of a conspiracy that spans generations. We have no book. We have no help. All we have is a cryptic warning, and the knowledge that the man with the badge is the most dangerous person in town. As we looked out into the trees, a new figure appeared at the edge of the yard. He wasn't the king. He was a man in a pristine, pale suit, standing perfectly still under the flickering streetlight. He didn't move. He didn't speak. But even from this distance, we could see the wide, unblinking grin that split his face from ear to ear. The smiling man has arrived, and he's not here to talk. He's here to count down the minutes until we're all gone. In Shadow Pines, the truth doesn't set you free. It just makes you easier to find. Stay close to the light, and whatever you do, don't trust the man behind the star. The hunt has officially begun.